Often referred to as the magician behind the guitar, my next guest is the lead guitarist of the celebrated rock band from Kolkata, India, Fossils. Though there is some progress, professional success is still tied to titles like doctor, captain, IAS, professor, or vice president. He too was faced with a dilemma that most of us go through. While his heart was at a place where society only looked at as a hobby, he grudgingly led life as an IT professional, using retail therapy as a means of escape with the stable job he had. And what was the result? He didn't find meaning and purpose in the life he led. He was hungry for much, much more. And now here is why his story is worth sharing. At age 30, he took the leap of faith. He left his corporate job to do music full time, a choice back then that had no future. A bold and daring move with a child who was a few months old. 13 years later, it would be safe to say that Fossils has at least 2 million fans in Bengal alone. Allan Da, as he's fondly called, finds purpose and meaning in the life he leads today. My personal learning, it's never too late. Take risks for your own sake. If you invest in your passion, you are bound to excel just like Allan did. Hear Allan talk about his choices, his family, and his music career in conversation with Allan Ao from Kolkata, India. Hello, Allan. Thank you so much for coming to my show. It's so lovely to see you.
Thank you, Candy. Thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
You were in the IT sector, and
Mhm.
now you're in a completely different field. So how did
Right.
switch happen? Let's begin with that.
Well, music, I started playing music quite late in my life. When I was in Calcutta, I moved from Nagaland to Calcutta when I was in class 8. So I wasn't playing music or anything like that. But I would attribute it to my college, St. Xavier's College, because there was such a huge culture of people playing music, bands happening. Every single second guy was playing the guitar or could sing or something like that. So I wanted to in on the party. One thing led to the other. I started practicing a lot, and obviously, if you practice, you get better.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started getting into bands and stuff like that. But it was never a serious.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I never even gave it a thought of pursuing it as a profession or something like that, because music in India, especially English music, rock and roll. I mean, there is no future back
Right.
then, at least. There was no future. So it was just something you do till you're in college. But I really wanted to get into mass media, maybe advertising or something like that. And as fate would have it, my health kind of got in the way between me and my dreams of pursuing a career in advertising. So the next best option was to kind of get into something that I was good at, which was computers. So
Mm-hmm.
then uh, I got a job in Hyderabad. There was this .com boom happening at that point also, right? So there was a lot of buzz around that thing. So it kind of made sense to go into that line of work. I
Yeah.
mean, I joined the work and I married my wife when I
During
was working.
okay.
Yeah, during my work life, and we had a kid during our work life also. I couldn't accept that I would be just uh, a brick in the wall, if I can put that. Just one of the faces, just one corporate person, one average corporate person. I always felt that I could contribute a lot more than that. I could be a lot more than average. Not to discredit anyone, with due respect to everyone who works there.
Did you know what it was though? Like, when you had this hunger, right? And I think
Yeah.
you put it beautifully. Uh, so I'm sure, you didn't just think, oh, you know what? I want to do something more I can contribute. Let's do music. I'm sure it didn't just happen, right?
No, no, it didn't happen because I was already doing music, right? And the bug had already bitten me. I knew what it was like being on stage. I knew what the thrill was like. I knew what the most amazing feeling when you make your own song, and when you play it to people, or you listen to people listening to those songs and really enjoying themselves and the joy it brings to them, those kind of feelings no amount of money or anything can bring, right? So I already had that experience. So once that bug had bitten me, it was very difficult to kind of do something else.
So you were kind of torn between, the corporate life. You get like the monthly salary coming in, and the security versus the thrill that or the adrenaline rush that music gave you, right? Because it's a
Yeah,
you have to make.
absolutely.
So then,
Totally.
what was the moment when you said, "Okay, I have to do this"?
It was building, over a period of time. Initial few years that I worked, financial independence is a great thing, right?
Right.
I mean, where you can make your own choices with what you want to buy, and you aspire to have an air conditioning and flat screen TV and blah blah blah. So those things were great, but very soon it faded away. One day it worked. Suddenly I started getting palpitations. Strangely, then I must have been maybe 29 years old at that point, and I was like, okay, I kind of got worried, and I went to see a doctor, and the doctor just told me that there's nothing wrong with you, you're absolutely fine. But I think more than physically, I think there's something mentally that's bothering you. And that's when I first heard the term, it can potentially lead to clinical depression. Because back then our understanding of depression was, if you feel sad that your team India lost some cricket match, I'm feeling so depressed. We would use the term like that, right? And that kind of really kind of, if you really ask me, that is one moment that kind of I said, okay, now this is getting serious now, and I better, do something about it before I become a mess.
Yeah, and all of this gets the better of you, and you actually get into depression, right?
Yeah. And we had just had our daughter then, and that was not the kind of start I wanted to have to my life as a father.
So what was going on in the family atmosphere? I mean, I'm sure it was a big shock for family, right? Because out of concern, nothing else, right?
My parents are both artists. They're both qualified artists. They my mother is Chinese. My father is from Nagaland. He's from the Ao Naga tribe. And if you follow their own stories, they also broke out and did something unconventional. Like, my mother comes from a family of shoemakers. She came from that background, but she decided to pursue art. And back then in the 60s, late 60s, it was crazy, right? And my father, he was in IIT Kharagpur, and he was there for maybe about 6 months to a year, and he couldn't take it anymore also, because of his love for art. So he chucked that up and he joined Government Art College in Calcutta back then. Where my parents were concerned was also because, the struggles they had to face because of these choices that they made. They know that if you go down this road, you might be very happy with what you're doing, but money is also important. Some stability is important, and if you don't have that, then many times, if you always have this financial cloud hanging over your head, it's very difficult to create in those situations also.
And they absolutely have a point, right?
Yeah, they do.
What do you think is the reason for people not really being able to find out what they want to do?
I feel ambition is a little too overrated. I like to make things meaningful in my life. I think that's very important. So my choices always revolve around what makes sense in my life, what is meaningful, and accordingly I make my choices. Probably people will only know once they can kind of at least take a leap of faith in whatever little measure and explore whatever they like to do. It can be something as stupid as, I mean, who thought that YouTube would be a career, right? But it is. But it had to take someone to do it first, right?
What kind of a father are you to your daughter?
I would like to think I'm doing a good job. Most importantly, I have very consciously, since she was very little, I have consciously never ever kind of pushed her towards anything. I would kind of nudge her towards things like, do you really want to do this or not? If you don't want to do this, fine, we will not, it's your choice. So from a very young age, uh, I have made her choose.
I think that is really what nurturing is about, right? You stopped at choice. What I'll take that a little further, right? Every choice has a consequence, isn't it?
Right,
Whatever
right,
that whatever that consequence is.
right.
I think along the way, what she also learned through, your training, if I will call it that, is if I don't practice, she's realizing that I'll not be good. But if I
Yeah,
practice, then I'll be good. So you didn't
yeah.
have to tell her that. Children actually um, don't learn by you telling them, right? They
No,
learn
no,
what they see. And
absolutely.
and I think you've done that beautifully. I'm sure Mahua too. But just making the children realize the consequences of their own choices and how it affects them. No, at the end, right?
Yeah, and the other thing I also did a lot with my daughter is that I told her a lot about the mistakes I've made. So I've made mistakes and I've spoken to her. I speak to her a lot, even now, about my mistakes, what I have done wrong, what I could have done better, you know. So that can kind of help her decide, when she's faced with a similar situation.
So as parents today, we kind of are more equipped with information,
Right,
with experience, and with just being open to our children, right? Because a lot of things were so taboo at that point in time. You can't talk to children about your money issues. You can't talk to them
right.
about if something's gone wrong. A lot of parents back then, and this is something that I hate, would hide from children. So the
Mm.
child thinks that, oh my god, everything is going absolutely well, and life is so good, when the parents kind of hide a lot of things. And what ends up happening also is that then those children grow up thinking that everything is just fine, and when suddenly something hits them, it really takes a hard toll, right?
I'll
uh,
just I'll just take a spin off from what you just said, and apply it. I mean, take it back to the question you had asked me as a father. The other thing I think I really did a lot with my daughter when she was young was I, I got I got her used to hearing no a lot.
mm, good.
You know that you're not going to get everything. Everything is not just because you want it. You're not going to get it. Once they go out into the real world, and today the real world is a lot more brutal. It's a lot more aggressive. It's very cruel. And when they come out and when they hear the no for the first time, and even if they throw thousands of tantrums, it's not going to change, right? That is not going to be good for them. It's all about how you take it in your stride and you move ahead with it, right? That's your attitude is the most important thing.
Oh yes, and maybe irrelevant to you know irrelevant to the point of just bringing up kids. But this is what I used to always say in my corporate life. When I used to hire people, I used to say, skills I can teach. I can't teach you attitude,
Hmm.
right? So I'd rather take somebody who is underskilled and who has the right attitude.
The right attitude. Yeah. That when you walk into a room, your attitude is going to get you the gig or not. It's not really your skills.
Mm,
you know
mm, yeah. So ego, attitude, um,
yeah,
one of the biggest killers in whatever it is, right? Whether it's the corporate
yeah,
world, the music world, anywhere,
yeah, yeah.
it is the ego again, right?
Right.
Because those two kind of tie up, no, at the end together. So your
Okay.
career in music, right? I mean, you made this choice, and so about 13 to 14 years of experience. How has that been for you?
Every time, before you get on stage, the butterflies you feel in your stomach, and when you get up on stage and you see this huge crowd, and every time I walk up, I say to myself, I'm so grateful, that I'm so grateful that I am able to do this. That high point kind of overshadows all the other things, all the other things, like going touring abroad or meeting personalities. So they're all great, but every time I walk up on stage, and I see there's an audience waiting to listen to what you have to express through your music, I mean, there couldn't be a better and a greater gift than that, and I'm always grateful for that.
Nicely put. Another question about your music, right?
Mhm.
You being a part of a regional band that speaks the language that you didn't know, I mean, it's not your mother tongue. This setup is very unique, right?
So I, and from very young, even from Nagaland, I've had friends from all communities. And when I came to Calcutta, suddenly that whole thing opened up much bigger. I was from a well, I came out into a huge lake, or an ocean lake, where I'm interacting with people I've never even heard of, like Parsis. I've never heard of Parsis back then. I've always looked at myself as a person of the world, ever since I've come out from there. And I grew up in central Calcutta also. So all sorts of people I'd be interacting with daily, from all classes, had friends from all sections of society, all sorts of communities. So I have never looked at it that way. Talking about this band, I mean, when I first, met the vocalist who is the founder of the band, and he started making music, the amount of music we churned out in such a short time was crazy. That kind of chemistry I didn't share with anyone.
Mm.
So he would write the songs, and I didn't speak the language, so I would ask him, like, so what does it mean? And he would line by line explain it to me, and I would understand. So that way, then I just applied my music to it, and it worked. And I don't know how or what was the reason behind it, but it worked. And we respect each other a lot. We are really appreciative of each other, and that's the most important thing. As long as the music speaks to me.
Yeah. And I love your view to all of this, right? When I asked you this question first, you know, you chose to be oblivious to the the kind of people that surround you, in the sense that you call yourself like the citizen of the world. So
Right.
for you, it's very clear that it's about music, right? So
Yeah.
irrespective of who you work with, it really doesn't matter. And that in itself is a beautiful story.
I really appreciate the Bengali culture. I love how much of emphasis they have on the arts over
Mm,
food.
yeah.
Food, I mean, I can't think of any other community that has put so much of emphasis on food on a daily basis. You know, and Bangla for me is one of the most expressive languages. Where it can be extremely funny, it can be extremely sad, you can express anger through it. It's amazing. So I'm so lucky that I get to explore another language and a culture. And this passion for things, beyond just money.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
it,
yeah.
that, that's
Absolutely.
that's
It's
that's why I relate to them so much. That's why I relate to the Bengali so much.
one thing which I loved about Bengal is I've faced racism wherever I went in India, right? Besides obviously our own state,
Mm-hmm.
Calcutta was one place. I was there for what, 3-4 years. Not once did anybody, do do anything to us in terms of racial discrimination or
Mm,
abuse or slurs, and
right.
I was just amazed. So the rapid fire round is going to be really easy, Alan, because I want to be easy on you.
We'll
Uh,
we'll find out. We'll speak. I'll let you know after this is done.
okay, are you ready? Tick 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 tick.
Okay, I'm ready. Yes.
Okay, here we go. What's your most frequently used word?
One word I think I use a lot.
It's a good filler to use. All right. Your favorite cuisine?
Naga and Thai.
Okay. Your favorite song from the Fossils so far?
There's one song we just released from our last album. It's called Hridoy Bhangbar Gan. It's called Heartbreak Song, if I translate it.
Ah.
Yeah.
What was the last message you sent to your wife, Mahwa?
Where are you?
Hopefully, she was not in the same house and you were too.
No, 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 no.
Okay. The hills or the beach?
The beach.
Nagaland or Kolkata?
Kolkata.
Music or food?
Mm. Music.
What was your first job?
I was a computer instructor.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. What is the number one thing right now on your bucket list?
I want to go to Vietnam.
Your biggest fear?
Being alone.
What attracts most What physical features attracts you most to Mahua?
Uh, her freckles.
Yes. Nice one. Allan Da, yay or nay?
Uh, Yay.
You have to really think about that one.
I have to think about it a lot.
So, Alan, you've been kind enough to say yes to my request, and all of us would love to hear you play something for us in this show, maybe for a minute or so. So, with that,
Sure, sure.
I present the stage to Mr. Allan Ao. Thank you so much for that awesome presentation, Alan. And we truly appreciate it. I know that, we need to actually buy tickets for us to hear you play that, and you did that for us in the show. So we are truly appreciative. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Candy, and all the best to you. More power to you. You're doing a great thing over here. I wish you all the very best. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. You take care, Alan. Bye bye.
I mean, you do the same. Bye.
It feels so good to hear stories like Alan's. I hope you've been inspired to pursue your dreams if you haven't already. If you liked his story, I request you to check my other videos to hear more amazing stories. And don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification bell. Thank you so much for your time. I'll see you guys next week, same time, same channel. Ciao.